Welcome to the Life After Cancer podcast, made possible by the National Lottery Community Fund. I'm Steph, founder of Life After Cancer. I've been through cancer myself, and I know that when treatment ends, life doesn't always return to normal. So here we talk about the emotional, practical, and often invisible parts of life after treatment. We do this through lived experience and professional insight. These conversations share real experiences and perspectives. They're not medical advice and can't replace support from your healthcare team. If you're navigating life after cancer, supporting someone you care about, or working in cancer care, you're in the right place. So let's begin. Recently, someone in our community said, "My body has really let me down. I don't trust it anymore." And that really resonated with so many people in the session. Because for many people, when treatment ends, the relationship with their body feels completely different. You might not trust it in the same way. You might feel frustrated by what it can or can't do now. And at the same time, you might also feel very grateful for it. Research from one of today's guests shows that many people after cancer hold two feelings about their body at the same time: that it worked against them and that it helped them get through cancer. The study also found that those who felt their body was working against them were more likely to experience ongoing pain and worry about cancer coming back, suggesting that how we relate to our body can shape how safe or threatened we feel in it. So today we're talking about mindset and the body after cancer. This isn't about positive thinking or forcing gratitude. It's about noticing the thoughts we carry about our body and how some ways of thinking can make things harder, while others can make life feel a little bit more manageable. I'm joined by two people who bring really important perspectives on this to the conversation. Lauren Heathcote is an associate professor of health psychology at King's College London. She's received extensive research training at Sussex, Oxford, and Stanford, and her work focuses on how people experience their body after cancer and how the way we think about it can shape recovery and quality of life. Lauren is passionate about bringing medical research and lived experience together to improve cancer survivorship care around the world. And Stephanie Thomas is a member of our Life After Cancer community. She's sharing her lived experience of life after treatment for triple negative breast cancer and what rebuilding a relationship with her body has been like for her. She's a mum of 3, was diagnosed at 39, and now lives with the impacts of medically induced early menopause. This is a conversation about trust, body image, self-compassion, and learning how to relate to your body in a way that supports you. Here's my conversation with Lauren and Stephanie. Lauren, Stephanie, thank you so much for being here. I'm really grateful. Before we dive into today's topic, Stephanie, I'd love to know a little bit more about your cancer experience, when did you finish cancer treatment, and where you're at now.
Yeah, I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer in July 23. So I did all the usual treatment that you would have for that type of breast cancer. So quite intensive chemo, radiotherapy, surgery. Then I had another 6 months of oral chemotherapy. So finished that just over a year ago. But then I've more recently, just in the last few months, gone back and had a risk-reducing double mastectomy with a reconstruction from my thigh tissue. So hopefully that actually is the end of treatment for me now, the proper end.
Lauren, we'd love to hear a little bit more about your work and how that helps people who finish cancer treatment.
Yeah, so I'm an associate professor in health psychology at King's College London. And we have a health psychology section, which is a research unit in Guy's Hospital in central London. And my colleagues and I spend our days asking and teaching and learning about how our psychology, so the way we think, feel and behave, impacts our physical health. And I originally, in my PhD, was studying the psychology of pain, which is a really fascinating topic. You know, pain is both simultaneously an emotional and physical experience, and I think shows us how our mind and our body are really integrated. And then I started later on in my PhD learning a bit about sort of how pain can be something that lingers after cancer treatment. Even after successful treatment, sometimes for years later, people report persistent ongoing pain. And then I think we're at this really interesting precipice now where we've got so good at understanding the biology of cancer and developing excellent treatments for it that we have this rapidly growing population of people living beyond cancer with all kinds of physical and mental health challenges that comes with, including pain and mental health. So our lab now really focuses on trying to understand those challenges and develop interventions to support people in both their physical and mental health after cancer.
With this in mind, what challenges do you see come up for people who finish cancer treatments?
I think the somatic and mental health challenges are common but very under-recognized. We see issues often with things like chronic pain, but also persistent fatigue is another one we see commonly. And then the mental health side, I think, is really important. There's a lot of struggle sometimes coping with uncertainty and normal fears and worries about things like, will the cancer come back? What if it does? Will I be able to handle it? But also, what does my life look like now after I've finished treatment? And then sometimes as well, we see sort of people who have anxiety disorders and depression that's developed as a consequence of cancer.
So within our post-cancer community, we hear very often, I don't completely trust my body post-treatment. My body has let me down. And what we see is that really affects how they live post-treatment. Lauren, when you hear that, what do you see is going on for that individual?
Yeah, we've been sort of studying how cancer shapes the beliefs that we hold about our body and the way that we see our body for several years now. And what you mentioned, Steph, is so common. After going through an experience of cancer, some people tell us they never really thought about their body before cancer, especially when people had cancer if they were younger and sort of had the privilege of not having to think about their body. It was just there to support them. But since the diagnosis and going through the treatment, many people feel like their body has let them down in some way, or they now see their body as something that's broken or fragile. And I think importantly, this is really an understandable consequence. The biology of cancer itself is sort of as such where, in a way, our body has sort of started turning against us. But we also see that having gone through this experience, people say, it's shown me how capable my body is. So I think our research and others has shown that going through an experience of cancer can fundamentally change the relationship you have with your body.
Within your line of work, you explore mindsets. What does the word mindset mean?
So people use the word mindset, I think, in lots of different ways. In our work, and we tend to use the word mindset to mean our core beliefs about a topic or a domain, with those beliefs driving the way we interpret, engage with, and sort of behave in certain contexts. So what does that mean? I guess very simply, our mindsets are the settings of our mind. They're the lens or a frame through which we see a complex reality, like, the nature of our body after cancer or the nature of cancer itself. These things are inherently complex. There's no sort of right or wrong way of viewing your body after cancer. Many things are often true at once. But your mindset is essentially that lens through which you predominantly see your body, for example, or the cancer experience. And I think what's important about the work we do on mindsets and others is that our mindsets often make sense. They're grounded in reality, but they matter. And the way that we choose to view things matters for our lives.
And how is that different from us trying to stay positive or grateful, if at all?
It's a really good question. I think one of the challenges we're facing in mental health today is this sort of shift towards what's often called toxic positivity. Just think positive and everything will be fine. I think as a mental health professional, that can be quite harmful. It's not to say that all positive thinking is toxic. I think that's important. Sometimes it is really important to remain hopeful. Hope is such an important tool we have when we face life-threatening challenges and complex physical conditions. But what I think is unhelpful is burying your head in the sand, pretending that the hard stuff doesn't happen, pretending that, you don't face challenges, like, feeling like your cancer is definitely never going to come back. You're never going to face any other challenges. You're not going to have any long-term side effects. That's not the reality of many people. And so the mindset work, I think, is a little different because it allows us to recognize that we often hold multiple beliefs about things that are complex. Like after cancer, your body has changed in many ways. It probably objectively can't do some things that you could do before, and it's still incredibly capable. It's often shown how resilient it is. Multiple things are true at once. And you can acknowledge the hard stuff, acknowledge the hard emotions that comes with something like life after cancer. But think about, how am I choosing to see this complex thing like my body, and what's more helpful or harmful for me?
And Stephanie, if you think back to when your cancer treatment ended, how did you view your body at that time?
I was in a bit of a state, basically. I did have quite severe side effects, particularly in my hands and feet. So I couldn't do things that I'd really taken for granted. I couldn't even do like a lap of my local park. I couldn't walk my kids to school. I couldn't do the buttons on my toddler's clothes. I'd lost a lot of weight, no muscle mass, So yeah, I've always considered myself to be quite a healthy, kind of strong person. And I've always enjoyed doing things like exercise, yoga. So yeah, I felt really a bit of a sort of shell, really, and couldn't do any of those things that I took for granted anymore. I felt definitely about 20 years older than when I went into treatment, partly because I found myself in menopause. I mean, I've got grey hair as well now. So I've always had long brown hair my whole life. I did go grey actually very young, but I've always dyed it on a sort of superficial level, but also internally feel very much older. So just weak and old is how I felt, really.
And how did that show up for you on a day-to-day basis?
Not being able to do things like go on the school run or to dress my toddler or to have the strength to lift her, It was very present in all my day-to-day activities, just having that awareness that I couldn't do them. And comparing myself, to my peers at the school gates or something.
Mm-hmm.
Just, almost a feeling of like not belonging anymore. I sort of felt like I should be more in the grandma category than the mum category, if that makes sense. I felt a world that I previously had felt very comfortable in. I sort of felt like this isn't me anymore. I'm just someone different on the outside. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And did that change over time for you?
I haven't got back to everything that I did before, but I've gradually been able to do more and more of those things and get a bit of strength back in my body. My muscle mass has improved and I've put on weight and things. It has improved over time, but there's definitely still that element of isolation, I suppose. I don't feel quite who I was before. In my body, certainly.
Lauren, when you hear Stephanie share her experience, what stands out for you?
One of the things that you said, Stephanie, is something I actually heard from another friend of mine a few days ago, which really resonated, which is sometimes after cancer you ask, is my body me? Our body is so inherent in our identity. And I think that's why, we've spent the last several years and are doing more research now studying how cancer shapes our relationship with our body, because our body is so fundamental to ourself and it kind of colours all aspects of our lives and what we can do. And the ultimate goal, right, is helping people to find ways to do things that's valuable and meaningful to them. You talk about being able to pick up your toddler, right? That's what's valuable to them. And I think that's another important piece here, is that I think a lot of focus in this culture is around how do you get the best looking body, a body that can run marathons, a body that can live till you're 90. And often in life after cancer, really it's about how can I have a body that will help me do things that are valuable for me.
Lauren, why is it so important for us to have awareness of how we view our body and how we choose to view our body going forward post-treatment?
I think there's two things here. So firstly, I hope hearing this conversation and reflecting on the mindsets you have about your body, maybe you do feel like your body let you down, but you've never really sort of consciously thought of it in that way. Thinking that through and hearing others say the same thing, I think can just fundamentally help people feel less alone. And that is so important. Life after cancer, I think for many can feel quite isolating. You're the only one that was sick and everyone else is healthy and well, and you're the only one that's now worried about their life. Everyone else seems to be sort of fit and active and thinking they're going to live forever. So primarily recognizing that other people have those thoughts and you're not alone in them is important. And then secondly, I think our research is starting to show that these core beliefs or sort of mindsets that we hold, they do fundamentally shape our lives. We think that there's sort of several mechanisms through which they do that. So our mindsets shape what we pay attention to. So for example, if you feel like your body has turned against you or is maybe an adversary, actively working against you, you might notice all the ways in which it does that. All the ways in which your body doesn't support you to do all the things you want to do, all the aches and pains that might be signals, scary signals that, maybe this cancer's coming back, or maybe I have a new thing that I have to deal with now. And that can be disruptive and distressing in our lives. Our mindsets also shape how we interpret the world, what we're motivated to do, and then what we end up doing. And that can have, huge sort of profound effects, I guess, on our lives, how we behave, what we engage with, and our overall quality of life. So while they might seem small, these little thoughts we have about our body, I think the science is showing that they can have large impacts on our life.
Your first point as well will really resonate with so many people within our support groups and the workshops we hold, because the kind of overarching piece of all of our services is, oh my goodness, someone else feels the same way as me. The pressure that is released from just seeing someone sat in front of you who you can share that thought with, or that the biggest fear that you have and they totally get it. I think we really underestimate as well, like what that gift can give to somebody of just seeing someone who's been through a similar experience.
These feelings, I think, are often the unseen, sort of hidden consequences of cancer, and often the unspoken ones, like, you have an ache and you think the worst thing, and you don't want to say it because you think people will think that, you're crazy and you're blowing it out of proportion. But, you went through something where actually it's quite normal to feel like these little things could be something bad. And so sharing that, hearing other people say that, I think I agree, can be so helpful and therapeutic.
That makes me really think about, people often feel that if they go and see their GP because, I've got a little bit of a pain somewhere in my body, I don't want to be a burden. I want to play the good patient. I want to keep on the right side. So they've already got that tab open in their brain. So I don't feel like I can share it with a person who actually can potentially support me.
I totally agree. And we often hear two things. I think one is, I should be grateful to be alive and that this person has cured me. So I shouldn't be complaining about the pain I have, the worries I have. And also sometimes sharing, I'm worried about this pain, I'm worried about this lump, I'm worried about this thing, can feel scary because understandably the medical community, also friends and family, can respond in a way that might say, well, it's better safe than sorry to go and get it checked out. And sometimes that can be true. But sometimes you have to grapple with these things yourself, and they come up a lot, and you don't want to necessarily share every single worry about every single ache and pain. So sharing it maybe amongst other people that have gone through the same experience can be a safer place to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Stephanie, how have you found that experience in terms of, like, one, isolation, but two, finding a community who also gets it?
Well, it's only been a few years for me, but I've already had those things come up where, you know, I've had problems with my hip, which turned out not to be anything sinister, but had a long time of wondering if it was. And I've had, you know, various sort of lumps and bumps and things that need a bit of investigation. Sometimes I just don't even mention them to my husband, because I suppose I have that feeling of thinking everyone must be so bored of this now, like all my friends and family. But yet when I share that with someone, a friend who I've met through the, in my case, the breast cancer community, I just know that they'll get it, and they will have had those type of situations themselves, and they won't, you know, mind you taking up that space. It's very difficult for your friends and family to understand the relentlessness of never being able to escape those things of, gosh, I've got this weird bruise, what could it be? Or this ache, what could it be? I just think you can't understand that unless you've been through it, you know. And it is one of the things that makes it very hard to move on, and you have to find a way to learn to live with it. It's a huge challenge.
I know I'm going off piece a little bit, but the piece you said around, oh, people must be bored of hearing me say this. I see that in the community. Like, it just comes up all the time. And it's all as if people think, oh, I've got like X amount of conversations or tickets I can use, and I'm going to use them all during cancer treatment. Yeah. But now the world thinks, oh, well, you finished treatment and you're fine. So from the outside world, everyone thinks you're fine. So you have to act fine. Now I have less permission to talk about actually how I feel. But the outside world are coming at you like you're actually okay, regardless of what you say. And obviously, you look great. Your hair's coming back. Everyone assumes because you look better that you're okay. And I think that's where the community comes in. But also, there's a piece missing in terms of educating. Like, we all know that having cancer is going to be awful, but we're not in the same place once people have finished cancer treatment of going, oh, actually, there are some more challenges on the way, and it's going to be quite tricky. Returning to work, fatigue, fear of it coming back, or what needs to happen in order to get to that place for other people who've not had cancer to have that understanding. I'm not asking you to answer it, do I?
I mean, I've been guilty of it too. You know, I had a couple of very close friends who had cancer diagnosis earlier in my life, and I look back now and think I wasn't a very good friend to them, you know, because I didn't have any idea what they were going through. And I thought I was doing them a favour by not talking about it, you know, because it's finished with now, and you just want them to be okay, and you assume that they're just going to want all the positive distractions. But now, you know, as a friend, I just try to make sure that that space is open, that the door's open to talk about it if people want to. I mean, my favourite friend, who's amazing, she just remembers stuff, you know, if I've got a doctor's appointment or a scan or anything like that, she'll check in, not in a super generic way, just how are you? She'll say something specific like, how was your appointment with the oncologist today? Or how's the pain in your hip? And it just makes you feel really seen, and it gives you permission, you know, to talk about it and share. So that's what I try and do if I find myself on the other end of it now as a friend. If you know someone that's got a scan coming up, pop it in your diary so that you can text them on that day. You know, it just makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's the small things.
Yeah.
So before we talk about more of the common ways people see their body post-treatment, I just want to talk about a workshop that Lauren facilitated a few months ago, which was absolutely fantastic. And Lauren, you asked just a brilliant, really simple question to our community. And I just want to share what came up for them. So you asked, what words would you use to describe your body after cancer? So people basically used the chat, they shared in the group, and then we put it on social media after. And it really backs up exactly what you've been saying, that some of the things that people said were battered, unfamiliar, not as strong as it was. Others said vulnerable and resilient, strong but worn out, awesome and battered. So there wasn't one story or emotion. Stephanie, when you hear those words, does any of that resonate with you?
Yeah, battered is probably the one that I would have said. And it sounds awfully negative, but that is definitely how I felt. But, you know, also the other things too, you know, sometimes I am sort of in awe of, and I feel like a bit of a superwoman at what I've managed to come through and come out the other side. So maybe it depends on what mood I'm in. But yeah, my body was definitely battered, more than I expected, actually.
And Lauren, you mentioned this earlier, and I imagine the answer is yes, but is it important that we make space for all of these feelings and words and thoughts and beliefs?
I think so. Because often, multiple things are true at once. And that's so true of life after cancer in general. I think our research has shown something very similar, which is that it doesn't tend to be the case that people feel one way about their body or another. When we ask people to do surveys, we often see that people will score high, both on what we call the adversary mindset, feeling like your body's let you down or is working against you. And at the same time, they'll score high on feeling like their body is capable or feeling like their body is responsive, seeing how their body can heal and recover, seeing that their body is amazing. Having gone through this and still be going, both can be true at once. And qualitatively, in some of those quotes you read, Steph, show that too. We can often hold them together. I think it's an open question in research. Like, is the most helpful thing to sort of shift your mindset, towards those more helpful things, like seeing your body as something that's amazing and capable? I think another sort of possibility is that the best place we can get to is that we do hold both at once. But we have the recognition and the choice and the skills to recognize what mindset we're in. Am I seeing my body as more of an adversary today? Have I sort of thought a little bit about the way my body is capable, recently? We have some choice over that. And that we can, when we want to, when we feel motivated to, when we have the resources to do so, choose to kind of enact or instill mindsets that are more helpful, to us. And that doesn't have to be a big thing. You don't have to fundamentally change the way you see your body. But I think recognizing that both are true at once helps you to then move towards the things that are most helpful for you.
And if someone is listening to this and thinking, oh, well, actually, I'm kind of leaning more towards very unhelpful thoughts here, what would your response be to that?
Firstly, that's totally understandable. And I think this is a really, important point that our mindsets don't come from nowhere. There's good reason for you to worry about your body after cancer, to feel like it's turned against you, to worry about all the aches and pains you now have to deal with, find them distressing. Those are grounded in the reality of having gone through an experience of cancer, living with the after effects of it. So firstly, I think most importantly, you're not, those thoughts aren't wrong. But there are small things that you can do, on this journey to start thinking about whether, other mindsets might be possible at the same time. These changes don't happen overnight, but start small. Small is beautiful. Can you think about one way in which your body has been capable of supporting you to do something that you find valuable? Sitting and chatting with a friend, for example, has your body supported you to do that? Going for a walk, with your dog, has your body supported you to do that? These might seem small, but they are the ways in which our body should support us in our lives, in supporting us to do things that are valuable. So I would say it's about being kind to yourself and then taking one small step, one small thing to think about whether there might be another way of seeing your body that you could start moving towards.
Stephanie, in regards to how you felt about your body, did that change over time?
Yeah, it did. I wouldn't say I'm fully, super happy with my body yet, but it definitely has changed over time. And I can sort of relate to the things that Lauren just said about picking up small things. That was something that I tried to do. Is when I did really feel battered at the end of my oral chemo, I wrote a list of things that I wanted to do, and they were mostly physical things. And some of them were very small, to be able to get to the point where I could walk for 20 minutes so that I could walk my children to school, or walk one lap of my local park. And some of them were much bigger things, like this time next year, I'd like to be able to climb a mountain, because, you know, if you say straight away, I'm going to climb a mountain, then it might be a bit disheartening because it might take you a while to get there. Being able to tick off some of those small things, it did really help me to think, yeah, I'm not completely useless. I am getting somewhere. I'm getting something back.
And you had the evidence as well, just writing it down, ticking it off.
Yeah. And it was something just for me, you know, I didn't really share that with anyone else. It just felt, because it might sound a bit silly to go, hooray, I managed to like walk 10 minutes down the road, because obviously that's something that most people take for granted. Recognizing those small achievements was definitely very helpful.
Yeah, and they don't feel small, do they, once you finish treatment? Like you said, that was a really big milestone for you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I was definitely had days when it was just a struggle to, you know, get a shower or make it up the stairs of my house. So they did really feel like big achievements.
Yeah, it like reminds me of the spoon theory. People use it if they have potentially fatigue. Yeah. So if you've got 5 spoons, how are you going to use them?
Okay.
And, you know, how you might have used them 10 years ago versus how you used them 3-4 weeks, months post-treatment are very different. That actually 1 spoon might have to be used for a shower, whereas before treatment or a few years post-treatment, you're using those spoons very differently. If I've only got 5 spoons, where do I want to use them today?
Yeah.
And that changes over time, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. The goalposts and the, you know, your aims obviously keep changing. So now I'm able to set myself obviously more ambitious physical goals, which is great. But I think it helps to have goals, however small they are.
And Lauren, thinking about your work and the research, what mindsets tend to help people post-treatment?
We've spoken a bit about this already. I think the most important thing is that the mindset is grounded in reality. You know, one thing you could think about your body after cancer is, my body is invincible. Or, you know, my body is so strong, I'm like an Olympian. Mm-hmm. Often that's not really grounded in reality.
So don't do that.
None of our bodies are invincible. And this is an important thing as well. You know, I sometimes talk to people about our work and they say, well, what if I choose to hold the mindset my body is strong and then I try and lift something and I can't do it? So, you know, I'm proven wrong.
Yeah.
So actually, we often find that the sort of beliefs or the ways of seeing your body, which are grounded in reality, but sort of in a way, you know, inherently not right or wrong, are the most helpful. And what we've been seeing is that feeling like your body is capable is potentially a particularly powerful mindset or view of your body after cancer. Again, because that capability is linked to, you know, what do you want it to be capable of doing? And that's about what are my values? What are my goals? What brings me joy? You know, so we're allowed not just to live, but to have joy in our lives. And having a body that's capable of supporting those things, I think, is a reality that is achievable for many people. There's also sort of some different ways people might be able to, I guess, move towards that mindset. So the first most important step is really recognizing, you know, what beliefs you hold. What are the multitude of ways in which you see your body? You might have been thinking about this for many years, but you might have never thought about it before. Hopefully some of the things we come up with today, some might resonate more than others, and that might give you a sense about, okay, really, you know, how am I viewing the essence of my body? And then it's about thinking, well, you know, our mindsets are these lenses through which we see these complex things, and they're rarely right or wrong, you know, true or false. After cancer, your body is capable in many ways. It's also vulnerable in many ways. Both are true. And then, as we talked about before, I think it's about taking one small step towards a belief or a way of thinking that you think is more helpful. Like, for example, my body is capable. You know, one way you can start moving towards it is to say it. You say it out loud. My body is capable. Or, yeah, actually, my body's pretty resilient. You could say it to yourself. You could say it in the mirror. You could say it to a loved one. Have them say it back to you. Just saying it, you know, is enough in many cases. Another thing people can do is what we call prove it. So this is often actually about proving to yourself, finding some little piece of evidence that supports, you know, the belief that your body is capable. It might be thinking about a time when you went through a surgery, or you went through a treatment, or even when you were growing up and you cut your knees and you scraped things. Thinking about how your body healed itself, how your body often did things without you thinking about it, without you having to do it. The body is amazing. Think about some of the ways in which your body has been capable of supporting you in your life. And then lastly, do it. So, take some small behavior, some small thing that shows that your body is capable, that kind of reinforces that, and make it something small that you care about, like taking your dog for a walk, walking to visit a friend down the road. Make it something achievable, but really will show to you that your body has some capability in it. And this is the sort of self-reinforcing loop of our beliefs, is that by proving it to yourself, that often reinforces that belief, naturally, which means it's not always about trying really hard to change your thoughts, because that can be a very hard thing to do. It's about creating these little self-fulfilling loops that help to reinforce, actually, my body is kind of capable, it is quite resilient. And that, I think, is what can lead to long-term change.
I like that. Yeah, I haven't heard it described quite like that before, but I definitely like that idea of following. It's something that you can sort of quite clearly follow the plan to try to do. And I think I find that type of mindset very helpful. Because I picked up on that you said self-fulfilling loop, because I think it's exactly that. We can't shut off the negative thoughts, but what we can do is sort of nurture and encourage when the positive ones come along. So, to feed back that good feeling. Like, for example, if you manage to, plant something in your garden and it gives you a good feeling because you've been able to achieve it physically, and it's also, nice to look at or whatever. And then it encourages that cyclical kind of feeling good about yourself. I spent a little bit of time talking to a therapist who said, your thoughts are kind of like a garden, and you just kind of water and nurture the ones that you want to grow. So it's not denying the negative thoughts, but it's just kind of choosing the ones you want to encourage and to kind of nurture along.
I love that.
Yeah.
So visually, you have a whole picture of them, but I'm going to choose to focus on these ones.
Yeah.
And keep it just investing in those.
I literally do visualize it like plants. And I
Yeah.
sort of imagine that one there, it's there, but I'm going to let it kind of slowly wither away. And this one, I'm going to really water it and look after it. And it's going to turn into like a beautiful, flourishing thing. I find visualization quite helpful.
Yeah, same. Was there anything that helped you with your mindset post-treatment?
Visualization mostly. And that's come in different forms for me. I do tend to listen to a lot of those kind of guided meditation tracks, a lot of which are about, imagining some kind of future version of yourself. And when I did the Life After Cancer coaching course, I know that's something we did as a written exercise, thinking about where you wanted to be in a year's time, or whatever time frame you set yourself. And for me, that's always come back to the very physical things, like being able to go out hiking or climb a mountain in a year's time, whatever it might be. And it also, one of them that really I found very profound, actually, was at the end of treatment, I listened to a guided meditation where it was your current self meeting yourself in a year's time. And I really did feel battered at that point. And I've got it so clearly imprinted in my mind. I imagined myself in my pajamas, literally crawling along a beach, because that's where it told you should be. Literally crawling. And then my future self was there looking all amazing and glowing and toned and, wonderful. And I kind of literally took my, current self in my arms. And I really felt like, I don't know, it was just a very profound experience. And it really did give me hope that I could get to that point. I've heard that there's lots of research around the way that you can sort of exercise your body, even when you're lying in a hospital bed, thinking about using your legs or whatever it might be. So those kind of things have really, really helped me. One thing I've found super helpful is getting involved with an organisation called Move Dance Feel, who I think you know, who do dance online classes and also face-to-face retreats for people, for women actually, who've been through cancer in any way. And that has just been amazing for me. Like, very, you're supported by the community. You don't have to explain your cancer story a million times like you might do if you went to like a regular exercise class. And dancing, I think, is just a wonderful way of getting into your body and also feeling really in the present. It's given me a lot of trust back into my body. It's let me enjoy my body in a creative way.
I know, Lauren, you've spoken about the things that can help with mindset, but is there one thing that you wish people knew as soon as they finish cancer treatment about mindsets?
I think I would want to try and dispel a myth about mindsets, potentially quite a harmful myth, that it's all about mind over matter. I feel like that language is quite common, and can be used against people, when they're struggling with real challenges, real matter in their body that doesn't work as well as it used to. I think I'd want people to know that the research shows it's not really about mind over matter. It's about mind and matter. That you're not trying to overcome a physical challenge necessarily with your mind or think yourself well, but you should do all the things that you can to support your body, to support your functioning, which includes things for your physical body, whether that's the right medications for you, and the right exercise, the right assisted devices, and you can think about your mind, the ways of thinking. Both work together. It's not an either or. It's not one over the other. In all of medicine, in all of life, it's mind and matter working together. And if we think about it that way, I think we avoid some of the risks and the harmful effects, and hopefully move towards something that's grounded in the biological reality of our bodies, and helpful for people as well.
So, Stephanie, is there a thought or something that you took with you once you finished cancer treatment that just really supported you?
I think it would have to be something that my dad always talks about, the explorer Ranulph Fiennes, who I believe lost several of his fingers to frostbite. And when people would ask him about how he dealt with that, having been such an active person, he just always said, I just choose to, I focus on the things I can do rather than the things I can no longer do. And so I've tried to maintain that mindset. Also, comparison is the thief of joy is something I always say to my kids. And so I try not to compare myself with my peers or even with my former self. I just try to focus on celebrating the things that I can do, that my body still can do.
How did you do that with self-compassion? And I only ask because I think for so many individuals, that, half of them is being quite harsh to themselves.
Yeah.
That inner critic is quite loud.
Yeah.
And I love that as well. Comparison is the thief of joy. There's knowing it and going, oh, I totally agree. And then there's the reality, isn't there?
I think self-compassion is a really important and interesting topic. I listened to another podcast actually on that topic. And I do sometimes, I feel totally silly, but I do sometimes try to say it out loud. It suggested that you can even do things like literally give yourself a physical hug, put your arms around yourself and just recognize, that was hard and I got through it. Or for me, it might be like I shouted too much at my kids today. That was not a very good thing to do. And I just say, you're doing well, you tried your hardest, or you made it round the park, or you didn't do it today, but maybe tomorrow you will. And it seems ridiculous, but I think saying it out loud in a self-compassionate way can be a good tool for some people.
I love that. Giving yourself a cuddle.
Yeah.
They do that in yoga sometimes, don't they? It does feel good.
Yeah.
If someone listening is going to take one thing away from this episode today, what would you want that to be?
It would be that they're not alone in having these thoughts. It's probably the most important thing of all. These sometimes scary, paranoid thoughts that come up. You're not alone. Other people have them. Many other people have cancer. Certainly in our research, we've talked to hundreds, maybe now thousands of people who've gone through cancer, different ages, different kinds of cancers. And feeling like your body, is something that maybe isn't to be trusted, or that's something that's really resilient, we hear so often. And if you're having these kinds of thoughts about and worries about your body, others have them too. And maybe talk to others about it. Find one person who you think won't overreact, or you think won't try and get you to just think positive all the time. Who will listen, who might even understand it. And that will help to feel less alone in those thoughts as well.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Stephanie, is there something we haven't covered today that you feel is quite important that we share?
Yeah, so obviously hair loss is a big deal for a lot of people. When I thought about losing my hair, it wasn't really even that I cared about losing my hair. It's just a very obvious sign to the outside world. You feel like everyone in the supermarket knows what you're going through. And yeah, I can see why for a lot of people, hair loss is just something that they really, really grapple with. For me personally, it's a bit of a weird one because I've chosen to keep my short grey hair and not grow it out. I don't know, sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and I sort of think, oh, that's my cancer hair. I haven't visually gone back to looking like I did before. That's been a conscious choice for me because I chose, to stop dyeing my hair, and I like to think that it looks like a bit of a cool, edgy choice. Losing your hair is such an outwardly obvious thing.
Stephanie, what one thing would you want someone to take away from this episode today, or this topic?
I think the most important thing is to not compare yourself and to be self-compassionate. It's just a route to feeling very sad if you try to compare yourself to your friends who are going down the gym and lifting heavy weights and things. We're all obviously on our own personal journey, and everyone's achievements and bodies are going to be so different. But yeah, it all stems from that place of self-compassion. Just be kind to yourself, yeah, and don't think that you have to just the toxic positivity thing is a big one. Don't think that you have to just be like, everything's going to be fine now. Just start small, really. Just start small.
Thank you. So before we wrap up, I've just got a handful of questions to ask you. What did you expect life after treatment to be like, and what was the reality?
I suppose I expected it to be back to normal, and the reality was extreme exhaustion.
What surprised you the most about life post-treatment, good or challenging?
Friendships. The people who you thought might support you the most didn't necessarily, and sometimes some of the people that did support you were a surprise.
What's one thing that you wish someone had told you about life post-treatment?
I suppose I wish I knew more about menopause.
What's one thing no one tells you about life after cancer?
That you don't really get to move on from it mentally. That you have to find a way to live with the fear of recurrence.
What helped you the most after cancer treatment?
Exercise.
What is it really like when cancer treatment ends?
A big anticlimax.
What's something that someone said to you as soon as you'd finished cancer treatment that was very unhelpful?
Hooray, you've finished now.
And what could they have said instead?
I'm so glad you finished. I'm going to be here for you every step of the way because I know that you've got a journey ahead of you.
What's one small thing you'd tell someone to do today to support themselves after treatment?
don't give up on your body. Do the exercise that you can do, even if it's very minimal, even if you're in bed. Just squeeze your butt cheeks or something.
And if you could send a message to your post-treatment self, what would it be?
I would just want to give myself a big hug, some healing energy for what still lies ahead.
And what do you wish your doctors or your healthcare team knew about the realities of life post-treatment?
Just how hard it is to live with the fear of recurrence, how hard the mental side is.
Thank you so much. Lauren, I've got a few questions for you. What do people expect life after treatment to be like, and how is it different?
I think they expect pure joy, and it's actually mixed and complicated.
What surprises people the most after cancer treatment ends?
Things like pain and fatigue that came on, and was linked to the cancer treatment might keep going even after the treatment has stopped.
And what do people say they're often not prepared for post-treatment?
The mental health challenges, the fear of recurrence, and the day-to-day worries that sit in the back of your mind.
What do people assume about life after cancer that isn't always true?
I think they assume that you're constantly grateful for having gone through this experience, when in fact you can be both grateful to have got through it, but also feel like there's an unfairness in the things that you've been left with.
What seems to help people the most post-treatment?
Warm, supportive people around you who don't expect you to pretend like it didn't happen, and who are willing to hear you when you want to talk about it.
What do people hear after treatment that doesn't help?
I think, maybe controversial, that sort of phrase, better safe than sorry, can actually be more harmful than helpful. It often comes from a good place. If you've got a worry, if it persists, it is good to check it out. But I think that can make people worry and feel like they need to worry about everything. That's their responsibility to do that.
And what tends to help instead?
I think taking a moment, allowing your thoughts to come in, allowing your worries to come in, and allowing yourself a little bit of respite. If they're still there in a few days, then I'll do something about it.
What is life after treatment really like for people?
I think it's like a mountain range. These peaks, these wonderful moments where you feel the gratitude of having gotten through everything, joy. You see life in a way that's a privileged way that other people don't see it, and a lot of mental challenges, a lot of struggles. The dips can also be very low.
And what's one small thing that could help someone post-treatment?
I think moving your body. It doesn't have to be in a big way, but it's almost a way to show the cancer that you can still do things, show yourself that you can still do things. Move your body.
What's one message people often need to hear after treatment ends?
I think that your body is capable. We come, at the end of treatment, I think, with all kinds of worries that, maybe my body isn't capable anymore, maybe my immune system doesn't work anymore. I think hearing, including from medical professionals, your body is capable of supporting you in your life going forward.
And what do you wish more doctors or healthcare teams understood about life after cancer treatment?
Informing someone about their risk of recurrence is not the best way to support them and treat their worries and fears about the risk of recurrence. I think sometimes doctors think that just knowing, that you have a relatively low risk of recurrence, is the cure-all. But actually those fears can linger, they can stay regardless, and other ways might be more helpful.
And what other ways?
Potentially referring to a mental health practitioner in the oncology team to talk more about those fears, why people have them. There's also increasingly good evidence that we have good fear of recurrence interventions. Some of them are becoming digital. So I think the future looks bright for how we help people manage their fear of recurrence.
Stephanie, Lauren, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for your time. And there's just so many valuable parts of this conversation. I know are going to, one, resonate with people listening, but also just so many takeaways for them as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Today, we've talked about how common it is for your relationship with your body to change after cancer, and how the way you think about your body can shape how it feels to live in it. For many people, it's not about getting back to how things were before. It's about finding a new way of relating to your body now. Before we finish, I'll leave you with a question Lauren asked in a recent session. What words would you use to describe your body after cancer? And when you hear those words, are they helping you, or are they making things a little bit harder? If this episode resonated, please know these experiences are common. We've added resources from today's conversation to the show notes. Thank you for listening. If you'd like support or community, you can find free online workshops, expert sessions, peer groups, and our 6-week program at life-aftercancer.co.uk. If this episode was helpful, you can follow the podcast or leave a review. It really helps others find these conversations. And support information is always available in the show notes. Take care, and we'll see you next time.